Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode here on the Strong by Design podcast. This is Coach Chris talking to you from my garage, my little home gym. And we have a special episode for you here, no doubt. The best of healthy aging over 40. I have collected 6 of my favorite episodes over the last few years with some amazing guests that we've had. Either I've interviewed or Tanya interviewed. One of them actually might be from Joe Miller. We have some fabulous guests that we've had obviously on the show over all these years. And I wanted to do something a little bit different and pick a theme to kind of go after. And, you know, I'm a 50-year-old now, and aging is always, how am I aging? Always top of mind, something I spend a lot of time thinking about. Am I aging better than my neighbor who's 45 or my neighbor who's 55 or 65? And we have a lot more control over how we age than we think we do. A lot of people, I think, are of the mind that, you know, I'm older now, so this and this are out of my control, or this is going to happen to me. This is what happens when you turn 50. This is what happens when you turn 60, and so on. And while some of those things have some truth to them, you have a lot more control over how you age than you might believe. And this collection of episodes that I've put together from 6 amazing guests that we've had, some of them repeat guests that have been on the show multiple times, will inform you. They will encourage you. They will maybe in some cases shock you or tell you something that you've never heard before. And so just some enlightening conversations. I know you're going to get a lot out of it. So we're just going to go right to it. You're going to hear clips from all of these fabulous episodes. And I know it's going to be a huge help to you. It's going to really give you a great amount of information in a very short period of time that you can just hit the ground running. So enjoy. God bless you. Thank you for following our show.
When you become friends with your body again, when you start listening to it and obeying what it's saying, I need this, it actually, it's a really wonderful relationship.
Yeah, it's interesting because, as the body ages, we're not necessarily supposed to experience symptoms and dysfunction. However, the needs of the body do change. And like what you were saying, when we are younger, it's really, if you just look at, Mother Nature, it's to build a body that can have babies, right? Like it's really in that fertility, what's going to maximize fertility. And then as you move out of that, then it's like, how do we preserve brain function? How does the body preserve muscle mass as much as it can? Because what happens is there is a disease of aging, and I think it's the only disease that we have of aging, which is sarcopenia. Which is our muscle mass starts to break down. So You're right. It's early on when we lift weights, we build muscle pretty easily. We can get toned pretty easily because the body's in a state of muscle building. But now, as we reach that kind of center point, the muscles are breaking down. So our lifting weights is just maintaining our muscles for what we built in the beginning. And so, and also the body fat does change because you need to have brain function. And there's actually a study that came out, I think pretty recently, that said after the age of 65, you do not want to have a lot of weight loss and big changes in your body fat because that has been associated with an increased risk of cognitive decline, dementia, Alzheimer's. And so, I think ultimately you just want to make healthy habits for where you're at. Like, don't eat sugar and eat less processed foods and get some activity, move your body because you've got to move your lymph. And I think that we should still be lifting weights, but maybe not in the same way that we did early on. And yes, we need to maintain flexibility and all these things. So the purpose and the pro-survival thing of the body, it does change as we make our way through life. And maybe it's not so important to have a body where your body fat is like, I don't know, 20%, but maybe 25 to 30% is acceptable, and you're not obese and you're not, overweight, but you're still maintaining all the other aspects of life that promote survival and longevity. So whenever I'm talking to my patients, I always ask them what we outline their goals. What is it exactly that they're trying to achieve, so that we're all have the right expectation. And then I ask them, what is their motivation? Why do they want to achieve those goals? Because it's so important. And several of them will say, I want to prevent dying. I'm like, well, wait, we're not preventing dying. You're going to die, but let's prevent dying.
Figure that out.
That's right. I'm like, do you think I'd be sitting here if I figured that out? I said, what we want to prevent is dying before you take your last breath. We want to really look and focus on the quality of our lives as we start to age. And it is interesting, and it is a shift where, some women in their late 60s and 70s, they're like, their number one goal is, I want to lose 30 pounds. And I'm like, that's more important to you than fixing your brain function, and that's more important to you than reversing this diabetes? They're like, oh no, but I'm just they're just in the habit of saying that is their only goal. And so as you start to shift the goals and the motivations and the priorities, guess what happens to the weight? It starts to come off.
Exactly.
Because you're fixing the body. And so it's a really big mindset shift. And for them to start loving their bodies again, like you were saying, and understanding and knowing that your body's not your enemy, it's really just trying to help you. It's really a huge shift in people and moving them forward in their health journey.
I want to get through some of the things that you begin in your book discussing, which is a very real issue with guys, with women too, but I'm talking mostly to the guys right now in terms of our desire to maintain our muscle mass as we age, and what sarcopenia is, because a lot of people, maybe they aren't familiar with that. Educate our listeners a little bit about what that is, when does it occur, why does it occur?
Yeah, essentially sarcopenia is just age-related muscle wasting. It's a process by which, the underlying systems in your body, the physiology of your body, starts to get less efficient, so your body can no longer hold on to the muscle mass. So it actually reduces the muscle mass, and you shrink, essentially. And that process generally starts around 40. But there are a lot of things you can do to help that. And that's what my new book is all about, basically, is delving into training not necessarily the muscle, but training the underlying systems that support your muscle. And that's something that I've not seen anybody else really address in the world of fitness here, is how to bring up the systems that help and support that. So you're building the base, and then when you go back to building, a muscle building program, the results are just like essentially what you were able to achieve 20 years ago. And, this is not fiction. It actually is very research-based and research-supported. So a lot of the training methods that I use in the book, I've created myself, but based on research training protocols that have been proven in the real world to accomplish these specific goals that I talk about in the book.
What's happening for men or to men between 30 and 50 that's starting this process, or kind of a catalyst to why sarcopenia is even a thing?
In a lot of ways, it's due to lack of activity. I mean, men who generally go to the gym and exercise and lift weights and stuff, you don't see nearly as much of it. But men who don't, do anything with their body, they don't do anything against resistance, they're going to see the biggest impact from that kind of thing. So, when you're kind of in your 40s, 50s, 60s, if you do train regularly, even just regular training is really, really effective for that. The stuff that I talk about is to basically set that clock another 20 years back. So you can kind of, if you're 60, you can, work like when you were in your 40s. If you're 50, work like you were in your 30s and that kind of thing. And so you're basically kind of resetting your clock back so you get a longer time to have that muscle. I mean, nothing is going to totally prevent that from happening, but this is going to substantially prevent that from happening.
Yeah, it's really kind of delaying. I've talked about this concept in other ways, even when it comes to your brain, is you're delaying the aging process a bit by tapping into the abilities that you have, maximizing them, and minimizing this degenerative effect that happens from lack of activity, maybe worse nutritional habits. But of course there's a hormonal thing at play here too. Is after 30, what's happening is we are losing our testosterone. But your training methods actually help to also stop that to some degree, or to lessen the effects of it.
The effect of it, yeah. And the beauty of the training methods that I have in the program is that they're not determined by how much testosterone you have. Like, these systems are physiological systems that, whether your testosterone is, high, low, medium, whatever, these systems are still kind of determining a lot of what happens with your muscles. So these don't even depend on having, super high testosterone levels.
If you're hearing this and you're 20 something years old, do not start messing with your testosterone. Like, if you're unsure of what it might be, or you have curiosity, fine, and go get it tested. Do not start doing testosterone replacement therapy or any of this stuff. I feel like there's something that has happened in our culture today with a certain segment of the population. Young people are getting involved in messing with their hormones, their naturally occurring testosterone production and everything else. And I think it's really going to set them up for failure, and really stuff that we don't even know. You know what I mean? Because it hasn't been happening for long enough for us to really see the effects of it. But people in their 20s, your body's naturally still on the increase. I mean, men technically are kind of cap out around 30. Late 20s, early 30s is kind of when you're at your peak from a physical, hormonal standpoint. So you should not be messing or touching that at all, in my opinion, unless you're one of the few that maybe has some type of underlying issue or that you need to go and seek some attention to figure that out. But most people don't need any help until they get to a certain stage.
What most guys kind of need is more to address some of the environmental facters that might be tanking their testosterone if they find that they do have lower testosterone.
That's right.
Like sleep, drinking
too
alcohol.
much, sleep. Yeah.
Yeah. Those are big ones that can have a major impact. And there's like environmental estrogens that you can avoid, avoid scented shampoos and perfumes and all these things that, a lot of colognes have these environmental estrogens in them, the xenoestrogens and stuff. And, just by kind of decreasing the estrogenic load in your body, you can, have an impact on that. And, you don't need to, artificially increase by going into TRT or anything like that, especially, like you said, 20s, 30s, it's just not necessary. And it can set you back. And we don't even know what the long-term effects of that are going to be.
No, we really don't. I mean, we don't have enough time behind us to see what is a guy in his 50s and 60s like after he's done TRT for the last 30 years. Like we don't know. We don't know what that looks like. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, once you start that stuff, you cannot go back. So you've shut off your own natural production of testosterone. And now you're having to probably go even further to squelch any increase in estrogen that's going to happen from doing artificial things, right? So now you're on a lifetime of having to take synthetic, drugs.
Kind of a two-part question. One, why is protein so important specifically for women? And how can we get more protein into our body? Because protein usually involves a lot more chewing. And sometimes it's the idea of having to stop and have a meal, because that's the other thing in a busy life, stopping to have a meal, that's become not as, I remember growing up, it was you at school and you stopped for lunchtime. back in the day, there was lunch hour and we all stopped and everybody had their lunch box or their brown bags and you had your lunch and then you'd go home and stuff after school. But then dinner time, you sat down, you had a meal. That's not as common anymore, you know? So back to the protein, why is it important for women? How can we get more of it into our bodies?
Yeah. So in order to build muscle, maintain your muscle, you have to get adequate protein intake. So if you've ever seen someone, a little kid who is starving, they'll have that big belly. So that's actually a protein deficiency. So it's really an essential nutrient. So that is an extreme. But I share that because that's just how important protein is. And we don't want to have disease. We don't want to be just normal. We really want to live optimally. So we really need that protein to help build and maintain muscle mass, because that muscle house is the power to our metabolism. When you think of someone in their 80s or 90s, you're picturing someone frail who doesn't have a lot of muscle mass. So we want to do as much as we can to build and maintain that muscle mass as we're getting older. And we need that healthy dose of protein to do that. It also helps us to feel more full too. It's a very satiating nutrient versus like carbs. You're not going to quite feel as full from carbs. So it also helps us from that standpoint too. And I think the other thing you said, it's so important to really stop for meals. It doesn't have to be long, but
Right.
Also a lot of us are constantly snacking or eating throughout the day. So if someone is working on blood sugar regulation or insulin resistance, really trying to have 3 meals a day can help too, because what happens is every time we eat, we'll get that blood sugar spike. Our pancreas has to pump out insulin, and it's doing that all day. So if we can try to go to 3 meals, or maybe for someone that's 4 meals, that can really help too. So if we're just eating less times a day, that helps. And then we can be more intentional around those meals. And I think, so I gave some ideas for the breakfast, like the smoothie, eggs, yogurt. I think it's really helpful to plan and prep for a week too. So I will either do leftovers, so I'll make enough at dinner so I have some type of protein to have on a salad or something like that the next day or with vegetables. Or intentionally on Sunday, I'm going to bake extra chicken to do that. So it doesn't really take that much longer, but it's just something you have to be intentional about and thinking about. So we can use, obviously meat is typically really high in protein. Some meat will have some fat in it too, but that's going to be a really good protein source. The other things, if you eat dairy, you can do like Greek unsweetened yogurt. It's going to be high. You can add like collagen protein to your smoothies or other things. But once you start to become aware and find the protein sources that you like, it does get a little bit easier. But starting something new is always hard. That's the hardest part.
For the people listening, just that are thinking, okay, so I need to start somewhere. I need to start making better choices, need to start, some better habits. Again, you can't just do it all at once. It's like somebody that's wanting to quit smoking. Throwing away all the cigarettes and trying to go cold turkey is not usually a very successful outcome for most people. Like some sort of program, some sort of routine to get there is usually the more successful. So for the listeners that are sitting there in their car or at home or wherever thinking, okay, I need to make some changes. What would be like your top 5 simple like intro changes, lifestyle habits, nutrition changes, things that they can easily start to implement and actually implement into the family unit as well to just get the ball going?
Yeah, I'll give some ideas. But as you guys are listening to these, I want you to think, I'm not going to do all of them.
Right.
I'm going to start with 1 or 2. And then I like to tell people to have like a brain dump list. Like all these other things you want to do that seem like a great idea, put it on a brain dump list. Start with 1 or 2 and then come back to it. But number 1 would be making sure that you're drinking enough water. So like half your body weight in ounces. I mean, it can be a hard habit to start, but it's also a relatively easy thing. And especially if you're someone not drinking enough, people are always like, oh, I have like more energy. I feel better. I'm not as hungry. There can really be a good amount of positive effects that come from just drinking enough water. Another thing would be making sure that you're getting enough movement in. So figuring out what is your movement right now. So maybe you have a watch or a phone that can tell you or some idea, or maybe it's like, I only go for a 10-minute walk a day, and start to increase that. So whether that's, if you have a watch, if it's steps, whether it's a 30-minute walk, whatever it is, try to move more in your day. Number 3 will be getting some strength training in. And again, this can be really simple and short. 5, 10, 15 minutes of doing some strength training. It could be wall push-ups, it could be squats. You don't even have to follow a program to start with, but doing stuff to build muscle. You can also do yoga for strength training. There's yoga that's going to be stretching, relaxation, but you can do yoga for strength training too. And the ideal goal would be a minimum of 3 times a week to do strength training. That's where you're going to build muscle and maintain that muscle, because we lose muscle fast. So we want to try to get 3 strength training sessions in a week. Number 4 is going to be really hitting that protein goal. So figuring out what your protein goal is. There's a calculation I use. You convert your weight in pounds to kilograms, and then you multiply that by 1.2 to 1.5, and you'll get a good amount of protein grams for your body size to hit. So really trying to get that minimum of your body weight in kilograms times 1.2 a day. And then number 5 is really like mindset, mind-body type connection. So are you someone who's more anxious and you need to work on better ways to handle the anxiety? Do you need to journal more? Do you need to start your day better? But really that mind connection where we feel more peace with ourselves, where we're taking care of it. So that's going to really be different for everybody. But a lot of times we sort of have some ideas of things that make us feel better. Maybe it's deep breathing in the morning or whatever it is to help regulate ourselves better so that we can make these better decisions for our health.
You had said when we were filming our metabolic workouts that are on YouTube, by the way, for anybody who's listening to this and you want to look at YouTube to see what the workouts we're doing to our numbers, definitely go check that out on the Critical Bench YouTube channel. But again, another plug for Dr. Boz on YouTube. If you want to learn more, she has a lot of content. I mean, you have so much content
All
now.
the stuff your doctor wants to say in that exam room, I've tried to put on YouTube.
I know, and that's what's so, most of us have very little, even if we're educated in the health and fitness space, we still have very little education specifically in this area. This is a bit of a unique, particular thing that you've spent a long time.
Right, absolutely.
Reading and writing and publishing things in this area. Now you're doing your own numbers.
Right. So right now, when I started that workout, my ketones were like 1.3 or something.
Yes.
And now they're 0.9.
0.9.
I'll hold that up just for the camera, 0.9. And then the glucose is down to 70.
70. What was it earlier?
Right. So that's the beauty of what we were doing
Now
with
you
those.
got up to 110?
Right around that, right? Yeah. We can go check.
Was your high spot. And
So-
now you're,
This is blood and this is fat, sub-Q fat. So I will bet that in the next few minutes, this drops. Yeah, because this is a few minutes.
This is going to be more
accurate. Right.
But what's cool about the G7 glucose, the CGMs or
Continuous glucose
continuous
monitors,
glucose monitors we're wearing, is that you can calibrate them based on what you're finding on the blood test.
Yeah, when you do this and say, okay, so the blood glucose that I just checked, and we could do one more just to make sure. When I've calibrated before and you say, okay, is it my body's subcutaneous fat that is just not keeping up, or is that really my blood sugar? So it is the point of care stuff that, I mean, this is what the FDA warned about, is do the patients have enough education to be able to use it? And I'm like, it's not that much education. I mean, yes, it's a point of care, meaning there are mistakes that can happen, but check it again. It's not obsolete. It's data, and adding data to your list. This fiber optic. So I'm just going to show you when this clicks in.
Yes.
It's a little fiber optic that's laying in the subcutaneous fat, and it is approximating the sugar in your subcutaneous fat with your blood sugar. So especially after a workout where there's quite a bit of changes that are happening in the last 10 to 15 minutes as we sat down here, cooled off.
In
had
air
a-
conditioning, relaxing,
Right.
rehydrating.
And then you say, well, who's right? Is the blood is the subcutaneous fat right at 96, or is my blood sugar right at 70?
What's
and-
mine say? Because what
Right, yeah.
I want to see what mine, like we tested mine and I was at 83. And if I look at my monitor, yeah, see, this still says I'm at 114.
Right.
So there's a big deviation for both of us between, now this is 96 and that's 79. So
Right. So I would,
high.
I would say that two of them in the 70s, I would put that the calibration here is going to be like, I'd put 75 and say that's the right number.
Got it.
And this says 96, and it will take that data and it will calculate into the algorithm of what is the right number.
Huh. So how would I do that for mine? If I, well,
So
would I have to,
push plus.
Yep.
And then do you remember the exact number?
it was 80, oh shoot, it's right here, 83.
Yeah. So then put in 83, and you
Put it right here under blood,
Yep, blood glucose.
Yeah, and just
and then
type
you say
in
use as calibration. And this is the key thing that your
83.
Yep. And
Save.
Now the next time in the next 5 minutes when that system updates, it will use that in the algorithm to say what's the right one. It'll make you confirm. Oh, you already did that.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, to me, this is the beauty of you're never going to find a doctor who cares as much about your health. I mean, God bless my patients. I care, but you can't care as much as you care about your health.
That's right.
And this is where the education should not be happening behind an exam room door. First of all, there's not a reimbursement program out there that can cover that. There are not a lot of doctors who stepped out of that realm of saying, I am so tired of educating one at a time. Let's try this YouTube thing. And that's where my first video came out. I think it was 2013 or something. And it was on sleep. It was on brain. Like, I can't fix I can't fix this brain problem until they get their sleep right. And it's the basics on sleep, but it was not basic to them. It was like mind-blowing. Pun. It was going to change their mind in so many ways if they could get their sleep down.
Yeah.
And man, I just remember feeling so free the first time I put that video out on YouTube and said, there's a handout in the PDF that is the fill in the blank, kind of like, the third grade where you'd fill in the blanks as you're listening to the teacher, or, the preacher who leaves the blanks in while you're giving the sermon.
I know exactly
right?
that. Yeah.
So I'm like, we are using this concept to say, pay attention, fill in the blanks, and bring me this piece of paper back knowing that you've listened to this lecture enough that you comprehended it.
Yeah.
And it was such a game changer for patients being able to, it was like Groundhog's Day otherwise. You're coming in, you've got a brain injury, and I say brain injury when I hear chronic migraines. I say brain injury when I hear insulin resistance. I say brain injury when you're not sleeping well. And that's because that's what it is. It's all an insulin resistance background. The insulin was the problem because of the cortisol, because of the pain, and we will fix this, but you have to do some things first. And sleep was one of those. And I remember thinking, I finally got out of the groundhog loop when they would come in saying, okay, I listened to your thing. I'm on step 1. And it was like freedom. Like, okay, we can move to step 2. I've seen you 7 times over the course of 4 months.
Wow.
And I couldn't move to step 2 till you did step 1.
Yeah.
And we are there. We get to
Frustrating. I mean, even if I'll form an analogy because this is what I like to do. As a longtime strength coach, personal trainer, you get clients who are coming in. They have goals if they're preparing for something or whatever, or they just want to feel better and move better in life, whatever it is. But if you can't get them to do just a few basic things differently in their life, but yet they're still coming to you seeking real change with the same goal, we're just going to keep running into a wall here because you'll never get the result you're after because you're not doing these other 3 things that we've talked about.
And then what do they say? It didn't work.
It didn't
work. And I put that in
work.
air quotes because I'm like, no. Step 1 was always where we got stuck. And that beginning where when you have somebody who's walking wrong, okay, and you've said, okay, you got to increase that core strength. You got to stop doing that thing with your hip. You got to get that stride. All the stuff that is so subconscious in their brain. But if they can't improve that, we can't get you out of that rut.
Right.
And those things happen in medicine when it comes to sleep and how you cope with the bad day. And no, you can't have booze every night if you want me to fix your brain.
Oh my gosh, that's a whole nother conversation, isn't it? But
Yeah, I mean, people. We've talked about this here. We talk about everything here in the hallway conversation, the doorway conversations about, the alcoholics that don't realize they're alcoholics.
Right.
But they can't go a day or two without having their 6-pack of beer or their 4 whiskeys at night or whatever, or their 3 glasses of wine or whatever, and it's like.
Well,
this has massive long-term consequences, doesn't it?
Yeah, and when it's your like brother-in-law, it's your neighbor that you kind of hopefully like that's across the street, and you're trying. How do you get them to change behavior?
Yeah,
that positive peer pressure. Okay, that positive peer pressure means they're in a relationship with you, but you put a continuous glucose monitor on, and you start saying, "Let's compare numbers."
That's right,
man. If they're drinking beer at night, they are not going to be able to compete. No. I mean, that alcohol it's a toxin, and sure, it's got a purpose in our culture that you can, make social connections easier. But when you're trying to do metabolic health, your insulin's going to go up. It is going to sabotage the plan, and it is one of the, like, you can see people graduate at the Pin Chasers where they come in. And I mean, just like when somebody's trying to not drink booze, they'll think, I can't believe people say they're never going to drink booze for the rest of their life. And you're like, well, don't think about it that way. Just start with today.
Right.
And get you through the next week.
Start with today, and then we'll move on. I mean, you got to baby step it, because most people, right out of the gate, they're sprinting.
Right. Oh.
And you're like, well, you're never going to keep that pace up.
I call it ass over apricot. And they're just tumbling down the hill going, no, you're going to crash and burn.
For those listening, so you're a 53-year-old woman, and how many meals a day are you eating?
Probably 2 is pretty normal. Like I like egg bites on the way to work in the morning. So I like a protein that is not powderized. Having a history of insulin resistance, I can quickly produce insulin when my protein got powdered. I would try to do that. So whole foods for me in the breakfast.
Okay.
I love coffee on the way to work, and so egg bites fit the budget and fit the plan. But the second part is I keep a can of sardines at my office.
These sardines found their way back into the conversation.
Yeah, if I get hungry, that's the first thing that I'll eat.
Wow.
It's just such an easy thing to keep on the shelf. It doesn't go bad. I guess I'm kind of stingy because I'm like, I don't want to take the time to go find food, but I also want the food that goes in to have the highest return for my system. And I don't like when my brain slumps after I eat during the day. So if I get hungry during the day, I do like to eat with my husband. We have supper together. So I try to be home between 4:30 and 5 and have supper much earlier than what most people like to have.
Yes, a lot of people, and I even find this at my house, we're eating dinner oftentimes between 7 and 8 o'clock.
Right. Yeah.
Not ideal.
Right. And that I think is one of the hardest parts about when I look at the long game for patients that are getting into their 50s, 60s, 70s, and they have the season of kids where their metabolism can't handle that unless they're doing some of the stuff that increases muscle mass, breaks that sweat for 20 minutes, get to zone 2 at least for 20 minutes in the day. And then sometimes they can handle supper at night. But most of them, they are making way too much insulin to get the insulin to go away. They need nothing burgers, at least like most of my elder patients, and I say that with all the respect in the world, but elder to me means severe insulin resistance. They got triple-digit numbers. They're north of 50, and that they've been triple-digit for a while. They shouldn't eat after 3 o'clock.
Wow.
Yeah, if 3 o'clock comes around and they're hungry, your menu is sardines, meaning it is the most ketogenic food. It's the most satiating food. And the real question is, are you sardine hungry?
I might have to, I've never really give sardines a go.
Oh, really?
I've been hearing this S word a lot today. And you had the shirt on and everything.
Right.
I might have to give it a try. Obviously, and you said in oil, not in water.
Not in water.
Just like your tuna. If you're going to eat tuna, probably best to eat it in oil.
You want the fat, right?
Yeah, you want the fat. And but as a midday like snack, so to speak, right? Lots of protein, lots of fat.
You'll be so impressed, especially if you kind of just put yourself in the habit of it. Say, all right, for this week, I'm gonna do it, because when you open them, they They do get a terrible smell award.
Yeah.
But the palate really doesn't have.
Well, it's like cheese, right? Like
right.
cheeses. Certain cheeses are like, whoa, but they're
smell.
delicious.
Right, exactly.
So I get it.
That return of, if you get by the fifth day of sardine, or that afternoon can of sardines, you're absorbing a lot of that nutrients. And the hormones that tell your brain I'm full, that satiating hormone. This is that GLP-1, GIP, cholecystokinin, all these fat-based hormones that we market the heck out of, and we now have you inject once a week for, Ozempics and Mounjaros. But you can stimulate that in healthy people with a high-fat, high-protein meal, especially that you don't do it so close to sunset. By the fifth day, you'll be churning that out. If you've got a blood sugar of 115 or 120, and you're looking at the fruit, you do not need that. Just use the data to say, stop it. It's not helping you. I mean, when we look at fructose and how much it's the stimulus for producing the danger of brain disease, that is where Alzheimer's and that Parkinsonian and ALS and MS, those chronic diseases of aging, it's a bad day when that ends up on your chart. The fruit ain't worth it.
Nuts. Some nuts.
So here's the deal with nuts.
I'm trying to get, what are people listening are going, but I like this, or I like,
Right.
what are some foods that.
Watch what it does to your sugars.
Yeah, right.
Right. So to me, when you said today I had a healthy dose of nuts, I said, I wonder how much.
No, it wasn't ridiculous.
Okay, good.
It was
Okay.
a very small, the container is smaller than my phone.
Oh, so it's all portion controlled.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't I poured just a normal amount, what I
Okay.
felt like probably like a nice handful of cashews.
Well, it's interesting, when I first entered the ketogenic diet, I was all about which nuts are highest in fat. And I have a love-hate relationship with nuts. I mean, if they're around, they're great. And
They're
they've
satisfying.
got they're satisfying. There's salt with them. And I eat way too much of them. I mean, so I had to learn I can't do that. I cannot have them in the house. Or if I have them in the house, I just have learned I can't do that.
Wow.
What taught me that was the CGM. I just had too many. I'd have blood sugars in the 160s.
Oh my gosh.
I know. I'm like, it's a total betrayal from the healthy nut. And
Wow.
part of it is that the volume of
But
nuts.
I was going to say it was a little bit of a quantity.
Well, the other part is you look at how many carbs are in cashews, or look at how many carbs are in peanuts.
Yeah.
And it's just a ton. So when you're insulin resistant, it'll just take you right off track. So watch what it does to your sugar. Don't make me the bad guy. Watch what your system does. And
So I'm a huge advocate for eggs. So
Yeah,
eggs
eggs.
get a strong thumbs up for you.
Yep.
Avocados.
Yeah, I think, again, nice healthy fat. How much do you need? And so
half is probably
so
a
watch what it does to
reasonable
your
amount.
sugar. Then
Yeah.
and it's usually pretty good. Like avocados, I've actually had a season where I said just don't do it because they were eating more volume than I thought they should. But when people wear a CGM, it's not bad. So I'm back to saying, see what it does to you. I bet you it doesn't raise your blood sugar as much as I used to give them credit for. Maybe it was just the guacamole and they were actually eating
Right. Well,
chips.
that's just it too. Right. Yeah.
right.
No, and I get it. And I'm a sucker for, guac and
Right.
and-
The guac
and
needs to go with a
good
spoon.
chips, and
Right.
I get it.
Yeah, I'm there.
What the heck are peptides? And why are they just so popular in the last couple of years?
Yeah, well, when I started down the road of helping people drop body fat, one of the areas that I was really vaguely familiar with was peptides. And then when the technology I was using wasn't getting the results, wasn't giving me the results I really wanted or that the technology said it would give me. So when I heard about an expert that was giving a master class on peptides, I jumped in with both feet. When I started learning about peptides, it literally transformed our business. We are growing at an exponential rate right now because when peptides are done correctly, they are massively effective and very safe. But the question always is, well, what's a peptide? I feel like it's from my cousin Vinny. What's a grit? Well, what's a peptide?
What's a grit? That's a great movie.
It is. And so we'll do the 2025 version. What's a peptide?
What's a peptide?
And peptide is essentially, well, first of all, peptides are made by our body.
Yes.
They are cell-to-cell communicators, and there's, thousands of peptides that have already been discovered that our bodies make. We are more familiar with certain names, and I'll cover those in just a minute, but basically a peptide is a sequence of amino acids, somewhere between 2 and 50-ish long.
Okay.
And depending upon how long and depending upon the sequence, depends upon what the peptide does.
Gotcha.
So essentially, a peptide's made in a cell in the body, released, it goes to another cell. It's like a key inside of a lock. It unlocks and does one specific activity, and then it dissipates.
Yep.
Right? So now the question is, what kind of peptides would we be familiar with that'll help us dial in? The first one that was produced commercially was back in the 1920s, and most people recognize the word insulin because there's so many people using it. Well, it is a peptide.
Yeah.
Shortly after that, oxytocin. And since now, the last 100+ years, there have been so many different peptides that have been worked with to look at how they are effective in the body. Now, for the sake of this is an educational segment, right? So
Yeah.
I'm not anybody's doctor. I'm not intending to diagnose anything. I'm just kind of giving you the benefit of the background and information I have available today and kind of some of the things we're doing at our clinic.
Yeah.
So most people right now are familiar with peptides. There's peptides for many different reasons or many different functions, but most people are familiar with the ones that are being, well, marketed a lot through pharmaceutical companies that help people lose weight. And everybody in America, well, I'll say 2/3 of Americans and even some of the others want to actually lean out and get looking better. Everyone wants to look better. Our goal is to help people not just look better, but we want to improve their health. See, it's kind of like you get your foot in the door. People want to come into us because they want to lose weight, but we want to help them lose fat, not muscle. So we focus in on body composition, and we're looking to address utilizing peptides to help people get control of their diet, of their exercise regime, and of their lifestyle so they can actually sustain long-term movement towards better health.
And that's been...
It's really interesting. My father-in-law is a retired PhD in microbiology from the CDC.
Wow.
And he abhors RFK. Now, no matter how a person feels politically, I push back on him because he's big about vaccines. He believes vaccines have saved more lives than anything else in history, and he's probably right from the standpoint, but that's not addressing our problem in America today. And I said, to my father-in-law, I said, look, if you just look at this major problem, we spend more money per capita on healthcare than any other country in the world, and our health is abysmal.
Yes, right.
In other
We're
words,
I think we're the 10th most obese country in the world.
Yeah.
10th.
So if we look at big pharma, and God bless that we have great medicines available for us, and we have great medical doctors and a great healthcare system in so many capacities.
Yes.
Right. My mother-in-law had surgery yesterday, and she's home today. It's marvelous. There's so many.
Yeah, and these people are amazing. My wife's a hospice nurse.
Yeah.
There's people, and these are wonderful people.
Yep.
These they give of themselves. Yep. However, there are kinks and there are things broken.
When I went through chiropractic college and I came out, because you're looking at the healthcare industry from a completely different perspective. And with great respect, I had many medical doctors. I mean, I have medical doctors that are, I have a cardiologist.
Good
right?
friends of yours, yeah.
But I have, for my own care. And, I had 2 heart stents put in a number of years ago. And I thank God for the technology. I thank God for my doctors, right?
Yep.
But are there problems in the system? And the answer is yes. And we need to intellectually look at it and say, where's the problem? So we have big pharma and big agra, which are giants as far as making money goes. And if we don't question and say, hey, do you have our best interest in mind all the time when it comes to that? I would say we would be remiss if we didn't say, let's look at it with a little bit of a skeptical view and let's figure out what's good and what's not good.
Yeah.
What should we do? What should we not do? Most people don't realize that there was a guy named Moskowitz. I don't remember his first name, but he was a brilliant person who came up with this formula called it has to do with bliss. I'm going blank on it. I talk about it all the time.
It's okay.
But essentially, it's the perfect combination of sugar, salt, and goodness gracious, you get old and like sugar.
Hey, you need some neural
sugar,
thrive?
salt, and fat.
Oh, okay.
Sugar, salt, and fat. Right, it's the bliss point.
Okay.
And this is when the brain lights up when we eat this food because we get this massive dopamine hit.
Yes.
And we want more and more of it. Right?
Okay.
So if we look at how the industry hired
And
this
you
guy,
said sugar, salt,
and fat, right? So perfect combination, and we love those combinations
Yeah, we
together.
do.
Right? But if you look back, when we first started figuring out how can we get people addicted to the foods that will make us the most amount of money as an industry,
Yes.
now you can look at going, they're not really interested in making us healthier and leaner, right?
Right.
So here's where we're at today. Now, I tell people all the time, if we're going to talk about utilizing peptides, and we'll talk about the GLPs in just a moment, and what other peptides that we use to keep lower doses, and then we stack them to get synergistic effects, to get the maximum results in the shortest amount of time. But I tell people this all the time. If you don't change your relationship with food
Yes.
and exercise, then no matter what you do, when you stop doing that, you'll go back to the same body composition you had before.
Yes.
I get asked this question, if I stop taking peptides, will I get fat again? I said, well, if you stop exercising, will you get weak again? Again, the body
Yes.
responds to what you do to it. So I tell people my goal is to help reintroduce a way of thinking about food to serve your body, but to eat really good food and enjoy your diet. And we use peptides as a bridge to get you from where you're at to where you want to go, and then teach you the options that you have on how to actually maintain it. Now, let me tackle this. That's a big question and a lot of people are asking right now. So I said there are three options. I get asked this question every single day. So when you reach your target goal, and I've got people right now that have hit their goals. So I said, you got three options. Number one, stop taking everything. Now, I would say that for a very small percentage of people, they'll be able to keep their exercise levels really tuned in where it should be, and they'll really get their diet tuned in big time. Those individuals will only rebound, research shows, around 5 to 10% of that original body weight, which is great. They're staying in great shape. They've got control of it. That represents in America a very small percentage of people.
Yeah.
I say the most people are going to choose option 2 or 3. 2 is you cycle on and off. You break away, you let everything reset. When you feel like you're losing a little bit of control and you're moving down that wrong path again,
Yes.
you just jump back in and you regain control again. Now, that's a viable option for many people.
Yeah.
3 is my recommendation, because the people I follow, I'm talking about world-class medical doctors, researchers, people that are in this world who are in great shape, but they still maintain a low level, and we'll talk about GLPs. They take a low level GLPs to control insulin, because as we move down that pathway of lack of control of our insulin, it leads us to what we call metabolic disorder. And metabolic disorder then results in brain, liver, kidney, cancers, all different types of things related to a metabolic disruption. So if we start back at the beginning, we control it, it seems to be a better theory of how to actually keep our bodies moving in the right direction health-wise.
Okay.
So let me go back and dissect this GLP-1, GLP-2, and now GLP-3, which is my favorite.
Okay.
And so GLP-1 and 2 categories are called semaglutide or tirzepatide. GLP-1s are semaglutides, GLP-2s are tirzepatides. Now, there's how do you patent? So there are pharmaceutical companies that have patents on certain semaglutides or tirzepatides.
Yes.
How can they do that? Because if our body makes a peptide,
Yeah.
how can they patent something that's natural? They have to change it. So they have a secret sauce. So how do they change it? They want it to last longer in the body. So they use a chemical formula to change it so that it stays for a lot longer, unlike our natural GLP-1s or GLP-2s. So our natural peptides go in, do their job, and then dissipate. They have a short half-life, whereas these altered ones have longer half-lives. Now, I'm about more natural. So again, can I actually work with people utilizing pure GLP-1s and 2s? And the answer is yes. But ours are more natural, and we stack those with other peptides to get better effects. Now, GLP-3, the common question is, well, I heard that it's not FDA approved. And the answer is that's correct.
Most things aren't
Most
FDA
things are not. There's not many supplements you'll take that are FDA approved.
Right.
If you go get a joint replacement, chances are it's not FDA approved. So it's just a matter of educating people to say, okay, it hasn't been around as long. The long-term studies aren't there as much, but we still use it because in fact, I use it. GLP-3, if one does one thing, 2 does 2 things, then guess what 3 does? It does 3 things. But here's what the difference is. In GLP-1 and 2, it controls the number of calories you're going to put in, but then your body's got to figure out where to get the extra calories from. Fat and muscle are choices, right? And sometimes if you're not exercising, eating right, it's going to go through both. You're going to burn some lean muscle.
Yeah.
So GLP-3 comes along, and it adds a third one that actually goes after fat burn. So you're converting most of your energy from fat. So you're sparing a lot of the muscle. Now, we also add 2 other peptides we call it our Alpha Shred program. It's one of my favorite programs to help people lean out and maintain muscle mass. Women and men do not lose weight the same rate. Men lose weight a lot faster than women do. But if women do this right, again, we have to tweak sometimes. We have to look at how they respond. I had a woman call me today. She said, I've lost 12 pounds, but for the last month, I'm not losing anything. So we were on the phone, and I said to her, tell me what you're eating. And you just dial it in, right? She's not eating enough.
Yeah.
And it sounds counterintuitive.
Of course.
But you're not getting enough protein and you're not getting enough calories.
Yeah.
And here's why it's important. If you take your body and you say, here's how much food you need to sustain your body's size and mass, and then you cut the calories down to here. Now, if you're doing it right, your body's going to make up this. If you can't see me, I'm holding my fingers up. You're going to make up that deficit, doing it the right way, in fat, right?
Yes.
But if you take and you don't eat enough calories,
Yes.
your body goes into a whole different protective mechanism,
Yes.
and your thyroid functions. Think like a thermostat. It's just going to turn it down and say we're not going to put as much energy out right now. So you're fighting what's happening. So I said to her, you've got to eat more.
Yes.
You're not eating enough. You got to eat get a couple extra protein shakes a day. I guarantee the next time, because I check on my clients, even the ones that are outside of my area, I have people all over the country. I have them give me 5 numbers. I want to know 5 numbers all the time. So they need a scale, not that expensive. I want to know their weight. I want to know their body percent fat. I want to know their lean mass. I want to know their visceral fat and their subcutaneous fat. Because with the stack that we use for most people, we're looking at the subcutaneous fat we'll call it your fat suit. We all have a fat suit. Right? We have an area under the skin that can hold fat. And when that fat suit fills up, and it's different for different people, sometimes skinnier people, their fat suit's not that big before it starts pouring over into and around the organs of the body in the visceral or the gut area, and it's called visceral fat. Yeah. We know now that visceral fat leads towards the disease process. It is the most unhealthy, toxic fat in our bodies. As a matter of fact, some of the more common research today is that all the organs, believe it or not, are talking to each other. They release messenger molecules that communicate with each other, but fat in the abdomen, around this visceral tissue, is also releasing messenger molecules, and it's not telling the other organs good stuff, right? So it's not helping.
They're the gossipers
Yeah.
with the bad information.
Yeah, that's right. They're not helping any. So visceral fat is something we need to address. So
Yeah.
in the stack that we use for our Alpha Shred program, we're helping control the food noise with GLP-3 and burn more fat. We use another peptide, just happens to be called AOD 9604, and it goes after the fat in the area superficially, right? That subcutaneous fat. For men, it's around our belly and our love handles. For ladies, it's the lower abdomen, the legs, the arms, the areas that they tend to gain weight.
Yeah.
But then it also helps prevent the formation of new fat cells. So it's really attacking the fat we don't like looking at.
Yeah.
So and again, we're using low doses, so we're stacking these together to get a synergistic effect. And then we add one more called tesamorelin. Sometimes we change it around, but tesamorelin in the evening to do 2 things. Number 1, it goes after visceral fat, and it helps dissolve and get rid of visceral fat.
I had leaky gut. I developed the gluten intolerance. I got tested and carry the gene for celiac. And so I've really, when I always say, like, my patients are usually the experts in what they're dealing with, because most times they'll go home and they'll research everything, and then they'll look at like and that's really how I was with my approach too. When I developed all of these things, I'm like, what's causing this? And all these factors. And I actually went back to school and studied horticulture and plant biology, and like understanding like what's in the environment and the chemicals and the GMOs and the, you name it. And so what I have really concluded is we have over 3,000 chemicals in our food supply this day and age. Digest that for a moment.
Yeah.
We've gotten so far disconnected from Mother Nature and what our body was intended to consume and utilize and absorb, that now we are playing in a different playing field. We have additives, we have preservatives, we have pesticides, we have herbicides, we have genetically modified organisms. We have so many factors that come into play now that create this response within the body, because the body is rejecting it. It doesn't know how to deal with these chemicals. And so when you give something, this is why we get side effects with medication. The body's like, whoa, what are you giving me? I don't know how to respond to this. This is a foreign chemical that's coming into your body that it's trying to safeguard you, and it's telling you like, okay, it's creating these side effects. Well, food is the same way. So when we start adding in all these foods that have all these synthetic ingredients in them, we're no longer dealing with just eating an apple that's grown out in nature that's not given any type of, intervention. It's just grown in its environment, and the antioxidants are a lot higher. So there's a lot of factors. So one of the biggest things right now that we're seeing is glyphosate. Glyphosate is the number one thing that I'm really seeing significantly of with, it's a very toxic herbicide that's being used. And so when we have this chemical that's being used on the foods, it's stripping out literally like the membranes of the intestinal tract, increasing permeability. So we have the foods that we're consuming now are going out into the bloodstream. And the body is like, what are you doing here? The food's not meant to be out here in the bloodstream. It's meant to be in the intestinal tract. We digest it, absorb it, utilize it, and then get rid of what we can't use. And so now, because of the increased permeability, more and more people are seeing intolerances and they're seeing allergies because these things are going out into the bloodstream. So give you an example, when I had leaky gut, I did an allergy test and everything lit up that I was eating. Apples, celery, carrots, lettuce, strawberries,
Healthy foods.
everything I was eating I was positive for on my allergy test. And I'm like, what in the world is going on here? And so I focused on healing my gut, taking out like the big contaminants, taking these things out. And now I have these things on a daily basis with no issues at all.
It's one thing that they can do. And particularly those that are working with like a limited budget.
Mm-hmm. I would say, organic if you can is going to be the best thing. It's hard to give you like one specific thing because there's so many factors, right, that's coming up for me right now. People say, oh, gluten-free is just a fad. It's just a thing. No, it's not. That is the most heavily sprayed, contaminated, the wheat, the corn, the soy, like these are the most heavily contaminated crops that are causing the issue. So gluten-free is number one. That's like a number one thing that we should adopt in our country. Like if we went across seas to other countries where this isn't like it's more regulated, they don't allow these things, you're not going to have these type of problems. It's a major problem here. And so I'd say like gluten-free is number one because we know it's the most heavily sprayed and contaminated.
Right.
And it increases the permeability of the intestinal lining. But, can I answer though? Can I give you a couple of things? Because it's hard to get.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Okay.
You can give as many as you like. Because
Okay.
I'm sure everybody is stopped in their car and they're taking notes now on their phone before hitting Whole Foods.
And that's where I love people where they're at. And I think that living a healthy lifestyle should not be for the rich and famous. And it should not be for those that have their own chef and that can control every ingredient. This should be for everybody. This should be the normalcy.
Yeah.
And making it more affordable. And what I love to tell people, we need to start voting with our forks, meaning putting our foot down and no longer tolerating these type of things And because these big food manufacturers follow the dollar. And when the dollar is, when people no longer are buying these things and they're no longer putting these chemicals in their body, they are going to be forced to now change what they're doing to meet the demand of what people want. So when I went gluten-free 13, 14 years ago, it was really hard for me because there was not the labels that there is today. I had to read everything. I had to really look and pay attention. And now you go into restaurants, I can easily go in, ask for a gluten-free menu. You go into the grocery store. So that's what I'm talking about. That's because enough people have caught on and they're making this movement that now we're seeing it. So if we can keep that same thing going, like with people wanting cleaner options, I don't want these chemicals. I don't want these artificial dyes, colorings, preservatives. I don't want this stuff in my food. And when more people start to do that and support our local farmers, right? Support the ones that are doing it right.
The ones that are feeding.
What's that?
The ones that are feeding us.
Yes. And, there's so many great options that are out there now for people that are on a budget. Like, you don't have to go spend a ridiculous amount of money on, clean ingredients. There are great grocery stores out there now that you can get things at a fraction of the price that are doing things right. So those are the ones that I love to support and, that are going to be in alignment with the goals that we're after with our health.
Thank you so much for listening to the Strong by Design podcast. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe so that more people can find out about our show. Plus, you don't want to miss any future episodes with the amazing guests and topics we have lined up for you.